I get it.
It does help. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's my ace in the hole here.
Yeah, you're lucky to have her because she is a invaluable resource. You could not, we would never be able to get through without her. I mean, we're getting there, but this is like going to college again. Carolyn, you're muted.
Hi.
Hey, good evening. Oh.
Good evening.
Hi, Sandy.
Sandy.
Did any of you try to watch the Rome Yard?
I tell you what, I've gotten 4 emails to see if I'm watching it, so something's happening there.
I tried to watch it. You can't understand anything that's being said.
Yeah. Well, Carlos Ramirez from North Hyde Park, he said you've got to listen to this. So I knew there was going to be some controversy. So it's I'm sorry, I can't sign on to it because apparently what they're doing is changing the complexion of what they originally started. That was supposed to be mixed housing with retail space. And apparently the housing authority has gotten a hold of it and wants to change that. So I hope that's wrong. I hope they're hearing it wrong. But anyway.
Well, I listened for over 20 minutes and I couldn't understand anything anybody was saying. And there were lots of comments in the chat saying that they couldn't hear. So.
Okay, well, good. Hopefully I can sign on to it later.
Is that going on right now?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's going from 6 to 8 and it's recorded. So I guess you can watch it later.
After, okay.
Hi, Pat.
Okay. Carolyn, I sent the email about public speaking on Thursday.
Okay.
What time is it? Got about 1 more minute. I hope we pick up a couple extra people.
I think a lot of people went to the Rome Yard thing.
Exactly.
Do they have it where you could go in person?
Yes.
Or is it all Zoom? Oh, okay.
And that's probably the biggest part of the problem is when you do that, when it's not one way or the other, it's hard to make sure that you can hear everybody. So I feel better about the hybrid meetings now.
There's also an Art Alliance meeting tonight. It's one of those nights, folks. Hi, Pam.
Good evening, everybody.
Well, since my dog is barking at neighbors, I need to mute.
Okay. Y'all are going to think I'm goofy, but I can't even see how many people are here.
There's 11.
Is there 11? Okay, thank you.
I don't think we're going to be able to take a vote on the
minutes
or the treasury report because we'd have to have 8 voting members.
Okay.
Present, and I'm looking now. I only see 5 so far. 6.
If we get enough pop in to vote, we'll deal with that. But if not, then we'll skip it. Make the meeting shorter. Good evening, folks. Wait a minute. Now I've got this thing all screwed up. Sorry. Okay. Good evening, folks. I have done a little bit of fancy work on this PowerPoint this month. I have already uploaded it to fantampa.org. So you can go there anytime you like. I have put links into the pertinent subject. So for instance, on the front page, if I've got this little link down here for the agenda, you can click on the agenda and it'll pull up the agenda for you. So it's a little bit more interactive. And that way, if you say, oh, I saw something and I want to learn more about it, if there's a source, please, click on the links in on the website. Okay, we don't have enough members to do the business of approving the minutes and give it the treasurer's report. You can see it on the screen, and of course it's not in hiding. We are looking for a treasurer. Our treasurer passed away about 4 weeks after we took office. And if you have any interest in that, we would entertain any volunteers.
Let
yes,
me think about it. That's kind
okay.
of my background. Okay.
Okay, that would be awesome, Pat. Thank you.
Okay.
And so without further ado, is Mr. Citro with us? Mr. Citro, are you with us?
I'm there. I'm here.
There you are. Great.
On video.
Yes.
No?
No, you're on video.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good evening, all. How is everybody doing?
Great.
Okay, wonderful. I am glad to see that we are having FAN in a renaissance. And congratulations to all the officers that were elected. And I'm glad to see the progress coming back. At one time, way back when I first started with the city of Tampa back in code enforcement and civil service, they had the old timers like Al Stinson and Margaret Vissy, who were very, very strong in the community and strong with FAN. And I'm glad to see more and more people becoming involved. So thank you for having me this evening. I'm the type of person that likes to answer questions instead of speaking. So hit me with your questions and let's start a productive conversation.
If you have any questions, please unmute yourself. Unless we get a run at Councilman Citro. Does anybody have a question?
Hi, Councilman. This is Christina Costa. It's so nice to see you.
Good to see you. I'm not actually seeing you, but it's good to be here. Good to hear your voice.
I wonder, can you please share with the group what it is that brings you to the FAN meeting tonight and what you think the overarching objective of the group should be going forward?
Oh, definitely community involvement. I'm hoping that we are going to hear a lot more from FAN. FAN is the collective unity of all the communities and all the neighborhoods within Tampa. And I'm hoping that FAN is going to be the voice for all communities. And again, when we have our council meetings, we tend to hear each individual. I feel there's going to be a heck of a lot more strength coming from FAN itself than just neighborhoods speaking for themselves. I saw on your request that we were going to be talking about sidewalks. Tim and I have been working very hard, and there was a motion made, and I was all for it, to make sure that we are going to start going back to having sidewalks at least a mile around schools. With Hillsborough County stopping busing within a 2-mile radius of all schools, now the children have to walk to schools or be dropped off by their parents. I don't know if any of you follow me on social media, but you saw that I was out there with sidewalk stompers last week at Roosevelt Elementary, and I got to witness firsthand the troubles that parents and children are facing, not only walking to schools, but riding their bicycles. So I'm hoping that we can get the sidewalk issue solved, and we can start getting more and more sidewalks placed and holding developers accountable for building those sidewalks when they build new homes.
That is music to my ears.
You know, people always say, Councilman Citro, you happen to live on Bay Shore and you don't have to worry about sidewalks. You've got the world's longest continuous sidewalk. Well, that may be true, but my side street, which is Bayview, has no sidewalks. So I see people walking in the street. I see mothers pushing their strollers in the street, and I see kids having to play in our streets. And until we get more sidewalks, I fear that it's still not going to be safe for our children to walk to school like you and I did when we were their age. And that is very concerning to me. So I am going to fight as hard as I can. I've already made my promises to people within Walk Bike Tampa, Sidewalk Stompers, and other different types of organizations that I will back the sidewalk amendments coming up.
Mr. Citro, Councilman
Yes.
Citro?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Sanchez, how you doing? I'm sorry we couldn't meet the other day. I hope everything is all right.
Everything's fine.
Good.
I just wanted to thank all the city councilmen for their accessibility. We really, really appreciate the fact that all of you are following through on your promise that you made when you were running for office, and that was to make yourselves accessible and to listen to our complaints and some of our praises too. But we really appreciate that we can get to you, and we're hoping that some of the issues that are going around with other city councilmen right now will not intimidate any of you and keep you as you are, accessible and doing your job by being a liaison between the city, the neighborhoods, the city, and the developers. We appreciate your open-mindedness, and we appreciate the fact that you listen to us. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Ms. Sanchez, you know, you've called me up and you have both given me praise and more often giving me a little talking to about your concerns. And you know I've always been there. I see a list of a lot of people that are on this this meeting right now. And Ms. Hinsdale, you've called me. Ms. Scherberger, you've called me. A lot of people on this list have called me. We've spoken at City Hall whenever I'm out and about in public. I don't shy away. I want to be able to hear what the community is saying, what the community is asking for. And if it's within reason and I can talk about it, I'll be more than happy to sit down, whether it be out in the public or at City Council. My door is always open. I know that's an overused phrase, but my assistant, my legislative aide, Tim, who all of us know very, very well, knows that if you call me or you call Tim, I will always set time aside. So thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Anybody else have any questions? My favorite color is blue. My favorite food is sushi.
I have a question. Councilman Citro, you were, are you going to continue to push for sustainability and resiliency in Tampa? That's something that you have been out front on.
That is my concern. And I'm here for you, but I would like to make it to the Rome Yard. The first question I want to ask is, are there going to be solar panels on these building tops? Are we going to have energy efficiency as in LED lighting around the buildings? Are there going to be tankless water heaters? Are there going to be electrical vehicle charging stations here? What is going to be the cutouts for transportation? So those are things I want to ask. And in your question, Ms. Scherberger, yes. I was asked by Senator Rousseau if that was my main focus. And I said, that's going to be 75% of my focus between now and the end of this term. And hopefully, if I get elected again, that's going to continue for the next 4 years.
What can we as neighborhoods do to support the mission of city council? What can we do to make your jobs easier? Besides not come see you anymore.
Besides not writing me false letters and posting notes that say that you're my favorite councilman. That's an inside joke, everybody. That's an inside joke. Just do what you're doing. You know, be an advocate for the people. Just keep telling us your concerns. You know, you write us, you email us, you talk to us, let us know. But if I may be forward, not everybody in your community is going to agree with you. So be able to find common ground that, you know, even if not the whole community doesn't agree with everything you want, find the common ground, find the things that everybody can agree on and push for those things.
I can live with that.
Just keep your voices known.
I don't usually have a problem with that.
Yeah, but you still drive and text at the same time, Stephanie.
I do not.
Councilman Citro, one of the issues that we've actually heard a lot about from a lot of neighborhood associations, just like again yesterday, is shortcomings of the good neighbor notices. You know, people don't find out, like a lot of the Woodlawn Cemetery people didn't find out what was going on until the 11th hour. Another neighborhood organization that we heard from just yesterday didn't find out about something until the end. And Stephanie actually lives in the perfect example of the problem because her community, it's not a gated community in that they have a guard that lifts the gate to let you go in, but it is in the respect that it has an opening that all the people who live in that community have to drive through that opening to get out of their development. And right across the street, they wanted to build 300 some apartments. Well, every morning, everybody trying to get out from one side of Interbay and the other side at the exact same time, there's no signal trying to get out. This was going to have a big effect on everybody in Stephanie's community. However, I think it was only 2 people, maybe it was 4 people out of 45 people.
2 out of 44.
2 out of 44 people got a good neighbor notice because they were the only 2 whose actual houses were within 250 feet, even though because there's this single access lane to get out of their gated community, it affected everybody. And we saw it on Rattlesnake Point too, because nobody lived within 250 feet. And so we're just wondering what your comments are on that. I mean, as you probably know, we are trying to get that changed. One of the things we really want is a required meeting with neighborhoods with a sign-in sheet, et cetera, to show that more than one person came, because I cannot even count how many times I've seen someone come before you and say, we met with the neighborhood, and then the neighborhood one right after another go, well, I don't know who they're talking about because they didn't meet with me. Or, and this is one of my real pet peeves, oh, I'm sorry, we need a continuance because we didn't know the neighbors objected and we need time to address their issues. Woe is me if we'd only known. And that makes me crazy because your schedule is so jam-packed. And these meetings get continued because they pretend like they didn't know there was opposition. Whereas if they were required to have a meeting with the neighborhoods to begin with, they couldn't use that particular strategy. So I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, I thank you very much for that. I was just having a talk today with Ms. Kate Wells, one of our city attorneys, and I would like to expand the radius from 250 to 500 so that more of the neighborhood or the surrounding areas that are going to be facing these zoning changes would know about these sort of things. I would also like to see it mandatory that any type of zoning change is going to have to go directly to a neighborhood association and or surrounding neighborhood associations, just for the purpose of letting the neighborhoods know what's going on. Also, the CARES letter that comes out, that needs some overhauling, revamping. So just that interested neighbors like yourself know well in advance of what is coming up, like AB sales, rezonings, and code enforcement charges. So with those three things, I feel that there is going to be a vast improvement of neighbors knowing what's going on anytime you have any type of rezonings or any other type of things going on within the neighborhoods.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to hear that, and I appreciate it. And we all do, because honestly, you know, as Stan is reaching out to people and trying to get more members and trying to include everybody, we were hearing it over and over again, the same problem. So thank you very much. That'll address a big concern.
If I could chime in, sorry, this is Brian Seal. I'm the president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association. The point that the last participant brought up is great. We've encountered a lot of this in our neighborhood with very active developers that know better, that try to get around that. And so I agree with a lot of the points made. I'd like to also add that we extend the period that the good neighbor notice has to be sent out prior to the hearing. So for instance, one developer that tries to fly under the radar from us proposed a PD rezoning and legitimately sent it out by the proper postmark date. But for some reason, the Postal Service got hung up for 3 weeks, and it arrived 3 weeks later to me, legitimately in the mail. And then we had 1 week before the hearing to scramble and try to figure out what was going on here. And that was a big problem. So, and that was an honest hiccup. But if the developers were required to send it out 2 to 3 months in advance, then that would help, as well as the requirement to meet with us, because we only have a once a month board meeting and a once a month general meeting. And by the time, if they are not trying to reach out to us, for us to reach out to them and invite them to the meeting, sometimes within this 1 month period, it doesn't fall during one of our board or general meetings before the hearing. And so we're having to spend extra time to meet with them, if we can even coordinate it, if they'll agree to meet with us, as well as scramble to talk to surrounding homeowners about their concerns. So I'd ask for an extension of that. And then the second point I'd like to make is a removal of the design exception process, because some of the more savvy developers know what they can get away with doing just a design exception versus having to go before variance review board. And having sat on the variance review board several years ago, I can appreciate the city trying to lower the load on that group, as well as put more on staff, which have more time versus volunteer boards or for city council. But I find a lot of things getting rubber stamped these days by staff when it comes to design exceptions versus and there being only a 15-day public notice period. With that sends us scrambling. And a lot of times the design exception may be something insignificant, but it's indicative of a bigger problem that is tougher to get neighborhood input. So I would just like to make those points and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, I also agree that there should be an extended period of time for neighborhood notice. And of course, I said the 500 feet notice in the future. I would like to go out 90 days. Within the first 30 days, you have to notify and contact the neighborhood association and neighborhood associations around the area. So that is a point that's well taken. And I am going to start looking at that.
Brian, this is Sandy Sanchez.
Yes.
I want to agree with you with everything that you said. Plus, I have more to add to it, but I won't at this time. But I want to commend you all on the wonderful job you did getting all the neighborhoods involved. Your Facebook page had, what, over 800 hits on it? And we all tried to jump in and help as much as we could. So I just want to commend you all on doing an excellent job of contacting other neighborhoods. And that's one of the things that we want to do. We want to be involved with all the neighborhoods and be able to pull all the neighborhoods together when a neighborhood is having some particular problem. So I just want to commend your organization for what a wonderful job you did getting that out in such a short period of time.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that. And I can't take all the credit for the Woodlawn Cemetery issue. There's a very active group of Riverside Heights neighbors that really started that group and helped lead the charge. But again, that sort of cross neighborhood, a street is just a boundary on a map, really. And these things affect multiple neighborhoods. We're also dealing with this now with the redevelopment of Robles Park Village, which does sit in Tampa Heights, but it affects Southeast Seminole Heights. It affects Ybor Heights. And so we're trying to do what we can to build those levels of cooperation. But, we're going to get more involved with THAN because we see the value in trying to create these permanent relationships. So thanks for that.
Excellent. Welcome.
Hi, Councilman. Tim McGahee from Beach Park Homeowners Association.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Very good.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again as well. I have maybe a different question. I know when we last spoke, you had talked about sort of addressing the school situation or talking to the school board about the school situation and sort of the need for, capacity. Frankly, we've got some issues in, most of South Tampa, I think, has got some issues. I know that there's, some schools that seem to have adequate capacity, but I was curious to see if you'd followed up with that and what the response was, because I couldn't find anything.
Well, funny you should ask. I just had lunch with two of my counterparts on the school board today, and every time that I bring up the question of where are we going to put new schools that are needed for everybody that's moving into the city of Tampa, as far as South Tampa. We all know that Cheromani was the last school built in South Tampa, and I believe that was in the mid-70s. I get this deer in the headlight look, and they all tend to say, well, we're under the microscope right now. We have to deal with the problems at hand. And that's all I get. And I understandably so, they are under a microscope right now. But the only way that I'm seeing that, in answer to your question, that we can, build so that we're not at capacity is to go vertical. And I really don't see that happening, but I'm not on the school board. Yes, in answer to your question, I have asked my counterparts on the school board. And again, it's tough getting questions answered.
Well, I mean, I obviously understand their circumstance right now. And this is one of those things. I mean, obviously we can tell that it's on, right? I mean, the schools aren't always in demand, but right now, right now we need schools, and and it's a bit of a challenge.
I totally agree with you. But we are better to face it now than 20 years from now when it's becoming a real problem. I'm starting to say to my constituents, I'm not trying to figure out what my name is going to be like next year or the year after, and how I may have solved some of the problems that the city is facing. I want my name to be talked in a great way 40 years from now. Yeah. So, you've always had some great questions, and that one is a great question. And I will be still asking my counterparts on the school board that same question next month, next year, and the year after that.
All right, appreciate it. Because, I know that obviously there was the Rembrandt meeting that happened, a couple weeks ago. And I think for a couple of us, it was a little surprising that the school board was not more aggressive in their request, right, and looking more into the future. And it just, to me at least, it was a surprise. And I have a feeling other people, I think Sean had spoken to that effect. Sean Brown had kind of spoken to that effect, and it seemed like the city also, actually all of you, sort of, quite a few councilmen actually had spoken to that effect. That boy, you guys probably should have just asked to vacate the street in its entirety. And so it just seems like they have not come around, right, to recognizing the scope of this problem and being more aggressive.
Well, I don't want to talk to that.
I understand. I don't want to. Yeah. But I just
let's talk in a hypothetical.
Yeah.
If you're going to be able to join two parcels of land and use some land and want to make sure that there is a connect to it, shall we say, why not show up at city council and give us the reasons? Because we want to build a classroom here, we want to build a ball field here, and that's the reason why we want to join these two parcels. But just for any governmental entity that's asking for a request, not to show up and give us the reasons why they really want it.
Yeah, I get you, and I don't mean to invoke specific projects. I know that's a no-no. It was really just, like I said, just in general, I was a little surprised. I don't know, the passivity, I suppose, of the request.
Again, also, I want to make it quite clear that all politicians have a method to their madness, and I say that very jokingly. That I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but it just kind of amazes me that there wasn't more input coming from the school board.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say, Councilman, that it's so refreshing to hear you talk like that about schools and the school board. When I first got involved, it was with the previous city council, and they just told us over and over again, oh, schools, don't talk to us about schools. That's not our purview. We don't have anything to do with that. And it was very discouraging because you guys have a lot to do with density, what gets built where, and that has a huge impact on schools. And if a school is already overcrowded and there's a rezoning to put some mammoth housing project there, this is something that is up to you to address. And I just say, in that respect, well, that's just one respect, but one of many. I really like the city council, and I'm very happy to hear you talk like that, because that whole hands off, oh, don't talk about schools, was very discouraging. And and just kind of one little thing, there's areas within the Plant School District that are actually commercial, and they want to turn them in, let's say theoretically, they want to turn them into residential. Well, maybe they should.
All right, folks, we are like really pushing the QJ envelope, and we don't want to get ourselves into a situation where anybody has to be recused of anything from our council. And Tim, I can address your questions about what people came to the table asking for, and they asked for all of it. So bottom line is, we know Mr. Citro is very busy.
Yeah. No, that was my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're totally good.
But I think I would maybe phrase Carol Ann's question a little bit differently, which is that if you sort of look at the broad use of space across the city, there's a lot of space that's for housing purposes. Proportionally, there's relatively little space for commercial uses. It seems a shame to convert our commercial allocated space into housing purposes just because we have a current housing need. That seems to be rather short-sighted in my perspective, right? Just kind of taking the long view of it, that again, it's zoned commercially. It's a lot tougher probably to get new land zoned commercially. So I'd be curious to hear if there's any intent or interest in, I don't know if I want to say restraining it, but I guess how are we ensuring that we have that commercial space available for the future?
let me answer your questions to my thought. I'm big now on mixed use, and I'm sure you've been hearing at some council meetings that I'm asking for a percentage of mixed use. If somebody's coming in for a mixed use zoning, that a certain percentage be retail or business or commercial. And then that way, if the developer or the construction company feels that they can't meet that percentage, 15%, which in my opinion is not that much, then they have to have the burden of proof to show they can't do it. So if you have a apartment that's going up on a dead end street, can that be conceivable that is a reason why they wouldn't want 15% and then put in 7%? In answer to your question, I'm more along the lines of we can have more mixed use. If you're going to have some sort of multifamilies willing to be built, why not have ground floor retail space, commercial office or something to that effect, so we can have a better mix.
All right, I push for the same. I push for the same thing, so you're not going to get a disagreement from me on that.
And I'm hoping, but going back to another question, it's a domino effect. All our governments have to work together in our growth. If we're going to be building more residents, we need more schools. If we're going to have more schools, we're going to have to feed our children. So we're going to have more groceries and retail. If we're going to do that, we're also going to have all the governments are going to have to start this planning together. For the city to leave out Hillsborough County Schools, for the city to have to leave out Hillsborough County Board of Commissioners without making these sort of plans, then people are just going to be doing nothing but turning to the city and voicing their opinions, not in a nice way. If I can touch on something very, very quickly, I knew this might have been on your agenda also, and that's our urban forests. And I want to make it clear that I've always been for trees, but with the preemption, and you hear that out of my mouth a lot, with the preemption coming down from our state as far as their tree ordinance goes, that just throws ours way out of whack. And if anybody has a problem with these trees that may be coming down, please call your state senators, call your representatives, call Tallahassee, and tell them you don't like this preemption.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming this evening. Are you laughing at me? We do appreciate you.
No, Stephanie, I like it. It's like, all right, let's cut them off, get them out of here. We can talk about
No, I don't want to waste your time. It's funny because Tim asked me for a list of things that you might talk about, and all three of them came up anyway. So,
well, Tim is a very wise man, and he tends to push me in the right direction.
Okay.
Everybody, it has been enjoyable for me. I hope I answered your questions. I hope I am serving you well.
Well,
Please.
you are welcome to stay if you like, or you can watch this. It'll be on YouTube probably later on this evening or first thing in the morning if you wanted to watch the rest of the meeting and see what else we have that's hot and pressing today. But thank you very much for coming. We really do.
I appreciate everybody. And as I said earlier, my door is always open. Get in touch with me. Get in touch with Tim. If you have something that you want to talk to me about, give me a call. Everybody have a great evening. I'm going to Rome Yard.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. All right, we've got.
So could Stephanie? Can I
Yes, sir.
ask you now?
Yes.
Now that they're jumping
gone?
off.
Is he gone?
Well, they're working on it. I can see that.
For those of you who don't know what Tim is asking about, Robinson High School has a road right next to it on the south side, and on the south side of that road, there is also another lot that belongs to Robinson High School. And the bottom line is the school board went to city council and asked for that road to be vacated. So basically be closed.
During certain hours.
No. They asked for it to be completely closed. 2 days before the meeting, it was disclosed to Sean Brown that they had planned to talk about closing it just during school hours. And we asked a lot of questions and we didn't get any answers. And then they showed up to city council with it. So there was like a big to do about it. The school board 100% asked for the entire road to be closed. And city staff came up with their own little plan. And if you go back and watch the city council meeting, it was pretty saucy because
Well, the reason I ask is the
we
the
need
school
it
board,
closed.
the school board, their argument, I thought, was extremely self-defeating, right? Because not only did they say, I mean, you're saying that they asked for the whole
Right.
thing, but honestly, I heard them ask for hours.
Mhm.
And not only did I hear them ask for hours, but they basically said, oh yeah, the city's right. We have to provide an east-west crossing here and blah, blah, blah. And, even if we do something else in the future, we're going to have to do this. And, like, to me, it was all very, very, very self-defeating.
I think that they thought that it was a done deal when that city staff had dictated the terms and that those were the terms that they were going to get. And that was the best they could get. I think they were, honestly, I mean, I don't know why they didn't know that we were going to push back. And, they probably got 100 letters about that particular project because we have really, really worked hard to support it. So I don't know why she chose that approach. Maybe she felt like, I mean, you got to think about it. A lot of times they go along with what city staff says. So I don't know the answer for sure, but, somebody smelled something and said it smells. And I completely supported what he said, because a high school does not open at 7:30 and close at 4:30. It's open all the time. So, and it's not reasonable to do that. I don't understand the process, and and that was not something we asked for. But I need to stay on time.
Okay. All right. Well, you answered my question that you're saying they initially asked for all of it. And that
yes, they did initially. Okay. Kudos to these folks. If you notice all of these, everything that's underlined, there is a link to either the group or the meeting that took place. The TTAG had 20 speakers and about 76 letters sent to the variance board to protect the 2 grand oaks that were remaining on the property. If you want to watch that, it's pretty saucy. And it is, the link is on there so you can watch the video. The Save Woodlawn Cemetery folks, they managed to create a group with over 1,000. I think they've got about 1,200 members right now in less than 2 weeks. I've been working for 2 years for SOG. I only had that many likes on my page. So, and the continuance it's been continued to February of 2022, but it's my understanding that the developer dropped out. Beach Park, you guys are phenomenal. You gave them a spanking and sent them home. That's awesome. So, Tim, do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Well, I think it's maybe oversold because they were asking for a continuance for 6 months anyway. And so really all that's happened is they can't refile for 6 months. Okay. So what's the net result? A couple months delay, really.
Yeah, well, that'll give you guys time to
I mean,
work on
I've actually
better.
I spoke with that developer one-on-one. We probably spent 3 hours reviewing ideas and plans and so forth. So I have a decent amount of optimism. I think what he's got a different understanding. I think he's got some decent plans. So we'll see what comes out of it.
Well, what Carol Ann Bennett always says is, anytime that we push back, we always get better. It may not be perfect, but we always get something that's better than what they start with. And so that right there is, I think, really, really important overall. I mean, you look at a 5% reduction, that's significant.
And we're talking about more than that, but frankly, it's really just a different project altogether, which makes it so they can get the numbers they want out of it.
And I don't know that there was a whole lot of folks at the third thing. It's the crime-free multifamily housing program. That was a very interesting meeting, and there were a lot of people from both sides who came and had a vested interest in it. I wanted to say that, you know, I thought that the community really turned out and spoke up and said, you know, there's some good things about this too. So I thought that was very interesting. It was worth my time to sit and watch for sure. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are watching these neighborhoods that may not be as organized as some of us are. So I just want to do those. And like I said, any of those links, you can click on those. They're on fantampa.org. And so you can check them out later if you like. Internal issues. We want to thank Pat. Pat is with us, but did I screw up her last name? Carol Ann?
It's pronounced Nagley.
Oh, well, see, I just took the close name. So I'm sorry, Pat, I screwed up your name. But she's offered.
That's my husband's name, and I've been known to use both. So
Okay.
I don't recommend doing that, by the way. It's confusing for everyone, myself included.
And but Pat's offered to help us with the membership committee. Beverly Morrow has been assisting us with the bylaw committee. I'd like to announce that there's going to be a bylaw meeting. We're going to do it via Zoom on 6:30. I mean, at 6:30 p.m. on the 27th. So that's 2 weeks from tonight. If you'd like to attend, shoot us an email at info@fantampa, and we'll get you signed up to come to the meeting and review the minutes. We'll get you copies of the minutes. I'm sorry, the bylaws. And then working our way, we're working on the best way for THAN to show support for individual neighborhoods. Right now, we don't have really anything in the bylaws that says how or when we are able to step up and endorse what a neighborhood is doing. And we're looking into that. Carol Ann's tasked to do that in the next week or so that we can include that in the new bylaws and how we can handle the helping the neighborhoods out, because that's really what we're here for. It doesn't do any good for us to be there and not be able to say, hey, THAN supports this, and how we're going to do that. So if you'd like to learn more, please follow us on Facebook and in our emails and website. And real quickly, some external things. Good Neighbor Notice has been pushed back to February 24th. It sounds like the city legal department has already been talking to city council about it, from what Mr. Citro said. I think that's a good thing. And we just want to make sure that everybody's tracking, put it on your calendars for February the 24th, because we are really, really going to need it. Carol Ann and I had a meeting a week or so ago about it, and there was some significant pushback about expanding the notification area to more than 250 feet. And everything that is under the Hillsborough Planning Commission's umbrella is all 250 feet. But it's not throughout the state. There's significant differences from city to city, and I've done enough research on it that I can throw it at them and go, well, these people do this. But so it's still there, but it's not going to be out until February. The CARES newsletter. If you don't get a CARES newsletter, yeah, it can go online and click on this little link up here at the top where it's underlined. And you can sign up to have one sent to you via email every month. And you can ask for different communities information to be sent to you as well. Let's see. Planning Today meeting is next Tuesday, right? The 19th at 6 o'clock. That is the planning department talking about planning, all things planning. I keep sending them questions. I'm like, well, tell us about this or tell us about that, because in my opinion, land use and planning stuff is like an algebra 2 problem. And I might figure it out, but it's going to take me a while. I would just assume them give me the elementary school version. And sidewalks. I think is Emily here to speak about sidewalks?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna let you have at it. I've just integrated your PowerPoint into this one. And Emily can go, just let me know when it's time to change the slide.
Okay. Hi, well, thank you very much for having me. I'm Emily Hinsdale. I'm on the board of Walk Bike Tampa. Also here with us from Walk Bike Tampa is a fellow board member, Christina Costa, and our president, Janet Scherberger. So we will try to take a note from Mr. Citro and run through the presentation quickly, but then be available for any questions that you have. So we came to talk about sidewalks, which I don't think I have to tell anybody here is a big problem across the city of Tampa. We have 1,300 miles of sidewalk gaps. There are a variety of ways that we can look at to try to make up this terrible deficit. We wanted to focus at this point on one particular way that will be coming before City Council on October 21st. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is, as I said, just one solution, and we would like to look at updating section 22-103 of the city code. And this addresses sidewalk installation with new construction. So when a single family home is built, whether or not there is a sidewalk that goes in front of it. Next slide, please. There are a lot of exemptions to the code that is currently on the books. There are, sorry, did I lose Stephanie? Okay, there are a lot of exceptions to this code, so you do not have to install a sidewalk. You can pay into an in lieu fund, but there are exceptions to that in lieu fund as well. If there are no adjacent houses with sidewalks, you do not have to install a sidewalk. If there are not sidewalks on your side of the street, you do not have to install a sidewalk. If you are on a local road, you do not have to install a sidewalk. So we're looking at addressing some of these exemptions and asking that new builds either pay into the fund or install the sidewalk. This in lieu fund is also something we can address. The amount is something that has been debated frequently in City Council. And because the amount has been debated, it's not currently before the city in this October 21st meeting. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is what it looks like when the city sidewalk code fails. You can see a whole line of new houses, and there are not sidewalks in front of them. Also, these houses did not pay into the city's sidewalk fund. This is across the street from a park and from an elementary school. You will notice also that there are no crosswalks leading from the sidewalks on the north side of the street to the neighborhood. That is because you can't install a crosswalk where there are not sidewalks on either side of it. Can we go to the next slide, please? And here's an example of where it works. This is another street of all new homes. And this is the way we'd like to see the code applied. Each of these homes has at different times over the last 5 years been rebuilt and added a sidewalk. And now next to a school, you have a very nearly complete sidewalk for the children to walk on. There's also a crosswalk now at one end of this sidewalk so the children can reach the school. This is what we would like to see happen across the city with every new build going on. There are occasions when it is very difficult to install a sidewalk. That's when we believe they should be paying into the in lieu fund. We don't think there should be a lot of exceptions to that. This way we can grow the number of sidewalks, and in areas where it is difficult for a homeowner to build a sidewalk, we can grow the size of the sidewalk fund, and then the city can install sidewalks in areas where it is more appropriate and maybe more needed. Can we go to the next slide, please? We have solicited support on this issue, we being Walk Bike Tampa, from a variety of different groups around the city. Some of you are represented on here. Perhaps some of you are not. If you are not, we would love to have your support either as a neighborhood or civic association or as an individual. So this is the right time to ask you to send a letter to your city council asking them to support changes to the city code at the upcoming October 21st meeting. And I think that I went through that very quickly. This will show you exactly what we're looking at saying, and it has the addresses right there. But I think the best thing for me to do here is turn it over to questions, and Janet and Christine can join me in questions. In answer to the question, is the local road definition same one used in planning? Yes, that is in fact one of the issues that is most of the city.
Would you mind going back to that previous slide? I just want to take that one sentence that you have in there and make sure I write that down so I can send it in my letter to City Council. I'm the Port Tampa Civic Association president, so we'll make sure we get that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm putting in the chat the email address you can use and some text you can use to send. You could just copy and paste it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Great job, Emily. This is Christine. I wanted to see if Janet could just give that 1 or 2 sentences about the audit that we did about, whether or not the city was under the impression that in fact sidewalks were either being built or the in lieu of fund was being paid into. Janet, can you just share with the group what our findings were?
On the walk audit that was around McDill and Beta Bay?
No, I'm talking about the audit that some members of our group did to actually check on whether or not sidewalks were built and whether or not in lieu fund found.
Oh, yeah, so we did do a little analysis, and we drove around and looked at all the houses that didn't have sidewalks built with them, and it's quite a few. And if we get this code changed, it'll mean probably either $1.2 million of funding for sidewalks a year, or 7 miles of new sidewalks. So it's substantial. And I did in the chat, again, give you the email, which is the general email. I'm sure many of you know that, and I have a typo in it. It's Tampa City Council at tampagov, no E, sorry, .net. And that'll go to all the council members as well as all their aides and the city clerk. So you only have to use one email. And if you just say, and again, I know everybody's like, if you're there and you can actually just do it while we're on the phone, while we're here on the Zoom call, go to your email and send the email to them, because the meeting is October 21st and the builders have been pushing back against this. And we want to really show the city council members that the neighbors support making this change.
I was just going to add that listening to this group and knowing some of the issues that you follow, the rapid development that we see in Tampa can be a concern a lot of the time. Well, this is one opportunity we have to actually make it work for us, to make our neighborhoods more walkable when there is development.
That's an excellent point. And I just wanted to say, Sandy, when we talked about this the other day, you said that you had talked to some neighborhood people that had some concerns and questions. Do you have any of those questions on the top of your head anymore that maybe these ladies could answer for you? If you're still here, Sandy.
I'm still here. I'm sorry. What did you say, Carol Ann?
The other day when we were meeting and the subject of sidewalks came up, you asked me several questions that you said were concerns of neighborhood people you had spoken to. And I thought now would be a good time, if you remembered what those concerns were, these ladies are the experts, they could give you answers.
Well, I talked to Emily this afternoon, and so I can share what I was telling her. We definitely want to support the sidewalks as much as we can, but one of the bigger issues that goes along with it is you can put as many sidewalks as you want, but if your driveway is too short, right now it's required to be 10 feet from the right of way, which would be the sidewalk. And if those people have a truck or a larger car, and we know that people don't park in their garages, but they park where they have enough room where they can walk in front of their cars, the cars hang over the sidewalks. So along with pushing for the sidewalks that we need, we also need to push for them to make that depth longer. Otherwise, we can put as many sidewalks as we want to, but if they're parking over the sidewalks, it's not a help. So it's something that I'm going to be talking to a few of the city councilmen about, because they have to put it all in order. In other words, yes, if everybody says, yes, let's go ahead and we have $10 million we're going to put towards sidewalks, it's not going to do you any good if people have to dodge the cars. And unfortunately, that objection is not enforced. In other words, people park across their driveways all the time and they don't get cited for it at all. So it's one of those things that we have to think about, putting it all together to, so that it works. So those are the concerns we have, because in our neighborhood, we're an older neighborhood, our streets are narrow. And when the new houses that are coming in, that's the problem. Now they're parking in the street because there's not enough parking for the cars, more than 2 cars in their driveway. So it's a danger, it's a safety concern for our neighbors, especially, we're promoting walking and we have wonderful Villa Brothers Park that everybody's walking to now. And so we don't want to, it's a safety condition. We don't want people, especially people with small children, having to, dodge the cars that are parked on the streets. So it's a combination, and I hope that we'll put that forward to see if we're going to do this, let's do it right. So that's it.
Does anybody have any more questions? Well, ladies, thank you very much for coming to our meeting and answering questions. And I will, even though I live in a gated community, I'm sorry, but and we have private streets, I will make sure we don't have any sidewalks on Inner Bay in front of our neighborhood. So I will make sure that we get our neighborhood letter out on letterhead, and Gandy Civic Association is already on there, right?
But we can get a letter from Fan.
Yeah, well, we're working on that. We're working on what we can do and what we can't do, and we should know about that sometime this week.
Okay, good. Yeah, because the meeting is next Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
We should have some answers in the next day or two, and that's one of the things on our agenda is what can we do to support versus not support, and to fight things, and how can we do that where we're following the bylaws and conventions of the expectations of FAN.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies,
for having us. If anybody does have any follow-up questions, please find us on any kind of social media at Walk Bike Tampa. We'd be happy to answer them. Or you can
I put the link to your page on the first page of your slides. So, okay. Thank you, ladies. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay. You don't have to go. You can stay.
You can stay.
You don't have to go.
I'm gonna stay and listen.
Me too.
Good.
I'm gonna stay and listen, but now I'm gonna have a glass of wine.
Good.
Oh, there you go. Just real quick, we don't have a city council meeting this Thursday. They have a CRA meeting during the day. They do have hearings in the evening. I am going to try and speak publicly on Thursday morning if they have public comment. I don't know if that's the case or not yet. If you're interested in speaking on Thursday morning, let me know and I'll tell you the answer that I get. I've emailed Mr. Shelby and asked him. But on the 21st, we have 2 big things. One is the privately initiated text amendment. That's what we call a PETA. The staff do not call it that, but we do. And basically that is kind of eliminating the PETA. From what we've seen, the introduction of the privately initiated text amendments, every time I've seen them go in front of city council, it's my mouth is kind of hanging open that they are just so less than fully prepared. I've only seen one that I really liked out of the 5 or 6 that we've been to neighborhood association meetings for, public meetings. We are vehemently, Carol Ann and I especially, I think probably most everybody is, we are against having privately initiated text amendments because They are, it's not the citizens of Tampa initiating these. They cost $666.50 to submit. Carol Ann and I talked about submitting one for the good neighbor notice, and then we learned it was $666 and we had the vapors. So we went to City Council and asked for them to submit our text amendments. And that's a process that we have. So this privately initiated text amendment, what it boils down to is it's the developer's way to get what they want from city staff and changing the rules to behoove them. So that's why we're against it. The public safety impact fees. Hello, I could not believe that we didn't have any public safety impact fees in the city of Tampa. So all of these builders that are building these huge apartment complexes and lots of houses, they have to pay impact fees to the city for certain things, you know, the water, sewer, the traffic lights or additional things that are needed because these folks are making money building something that they want to build, but there are no public safety impact fees in the city of Tampa. Lots of other cities have them, lots of other municipalities have it, but for some odd reason, the city of Tampa doesn't have one. And every meeting, they talk about how much they need more fire stations and more police stations. So please support the public safety impact fees. And we have 4 more things on the October 28th agenda right now. This might change because it's a couple weeks out. Local roads and the access, and we were talking about those earlier, for multifamily and commercial projects. I think, I have no idea where they're going with this, but I'm going to tell you this. The only place where it's against the rules to have a multifamily to dump out onto a secondary street is in a zoning administration meeting, or if they ask for a zoning administrator.
Special
review.
use.
Yeah, a special use. That's the only place that's against the rules. Well, we have an example down the road from me where they're dumping out onto a secondary street, and that particular property, they literally had trucks lined up in front of people's houses, moving trucks, when they opened the apartments. The whole entire street was closed. These people couldn't even get to their house, to their driveway, from all that nonsense. So I don't know where they're going with this, but if they're going with, oh, it's okay to put it on a secondary road, I say we show up and say, no, that's not cool. The massing study, I don't know where that's going either. So, you know, this is too far out. We can't see what's on the agenda yet. I just want folks to know that it's there. There's also
Just bringing up these items, Stephanie. So like the local road, where'd that come? Yeah.
That comes from the planning department. So if you look on the city council, if you Google Tampa City Council agenda, if you look at their calendar, you can see further in the future meetings, not just the agendas. Right. So these are things that are out there. You just want to be aware that are coming. I thought it was interesting. They had the dumpster overflow for large commercials and apartments where it was just a mess all the time. And then they also had on the same item the trash trucks not being able to get through. And I know I've heard some folks down here in South Tampa talk about that they'll hear the garbage trucks sitting out there in the street honking the horns in the morning. And then growth management, mixed use planning districts. This was something city council asked them to do, and you know, I'll be interested to see what they reply, what comes of that on the 28th. So they've got a pretty full schedule on the 28th as well. But we just want to make sure that folks are following, that there's stuff going on city council that you might want to check out. And when the agenda comes out, take a look at it. Tomorrow night, I don't know if you guys know about it. The city wants to build a large city center on Hannah Street, and there are some concerns about it. And they are doing a listening session tomorrow night. if you want to be informed, you can contact them. Again, the link is on this PowerPoint to sign up for it.
Is that
Yes,
the
ma'am.
police station?
Well,
I
it's
think
kind
that's
of
the police
interesting.
station.
There's
I don't think it's a
supposed to
police
be.
station, it's an employee center, right?
Yes,
For
but
City of
there's
Tampa employees.
I think so. They're moving a lot of folks, like the folks on Spruce, they're moving them out there. One of the big issues that they have is they're wanting to put fleet management out there. And so they'll have all these cars and vehicles and stuff out there that they're not necessarily very happy about. But this is just in the talking stages. And so we've got 3 or 4 neighborhoods who've already sent emails to city staff about some issues that they have with this.
I want to say, I just wanted to interject. This is the police headquarters.
They
They're
are going to put
calling
eventually.
it the city center, but they're talking about moving the police headquarters to East Tampa.
Yes, eventually.
Something that is a really bad idea.
Well, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that this meeting was going on, and I'm sure that they'll tell you a lot more about it. But I just want to make sure that folks understand. And
Yeah.
it's my understanding from what was on the news, which is neither here nor there. They said that there was going to be a police station there, but it wasn't the first thing being built. So I don't know whether that's a true statement or not.
But they're the people who don't like that crime-free housing program would also don't like this. Just so
Gotcha.
they don't like this because it's about over-policing in a Black neighborhood. And they don't want that police headquarters there. It's downtown right now. And like the NAACP and those organizations do not want that there. So that is something, just heads up on that if Stan is interested in expanding its reach to other neighborhoods that may not be as organized. This is one of those issues.
Right, I agree.
Well, I'm going to the thing tomorrow night, and because I know very little about it, and so I'm going to hopefully I'll solve that problem by going to this meeting tomorrow night. I'll be there representing Fan.
Okay, great.
Carol Ann's taking one for the team tomorrow night. I've been in a meeting every night this week so far, and my husband might divorce me if I try for 4 nights.
Isn't the deal here that they're
My
basically
husband heard that.
eyeballing?
He's laughing.
Kim, what were you saying?
Yeah, isn't the deal here that they're basically eyeballing that because they want to sell off all the downtown real estate, which is a lot more valuable.
Right.
I mean, I've been by that location many times because I have property just down the street from it. So I know that location. It's an interesting spot. I mean, it's fairly accessible, but yeah, it's just a weird spot for some other reasons. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm just trying to get folks the word out. That's all I'm trying to do at this point. And Carol Ann's going to go and represent us tomorrow night so that she can do the fact gathering. We're pretty good at tag teaming different scenarios. And this is her football and she's carrying it.
I feel like it's a good one to track and make a decision. I mean, not on for Than, like if they want to weigh in some way.
Absolutely.
Yes, and to do that, we really do need as many neighborhoods as possible to educate themselves about it, find out what it's about. Anybody that can go to this tomorrow night, it'd be good to go so that we can have a really good discussion about it. And I don't know if it's going to be recorded and maybe you can hear it later. I really don't know.
Okay. Did anybody have any announcements? Neighborhood announcements, anything like
yes. Can I put my 2 cents worth in on something? This is Sandy Sanchez. I just wanted to tell you all about something that happened recently in our neighborhood. And I went before City Council last Thursday morning because one of our developers, prolific developers in the neighborhood, we live in a neighborhood that is under the West Tampa overlay, part of it is. And one of the things on the West Tampa overlay is that any new construction will have access to the parking through the alley. This contractor has gotten a pass 3 times blatantly from the city. So this last time, they actually denied his design exception. 3 days later, they approved it. So I asked City Council to investigate to find out why, after a design exception from somebody from Urban Design went out there, drove through the alley. I sent them pictures. I drove the alley. It was clear. They were saying it was inaccessible. So they're sending it to legal to take a look at it, because I want to know why it is that this particular developer has carte blanche in my neighborhood. So I'm just telling you, if any of you have the same situation where you see a developer is continually being allowed to do things they're not supposed to, please report it. It's important. If we don't stand up, for what's going on in our neighborhoods, who will? And so I just wanted to share that with you. I'll let you know how it all comes out. I'm anxious to see what excuse this time, since they actually did everything right, and then somebody above these folks' heads changed their mind. So I'm just sharing that with you, and just be aware of it. And if it's happening in your neighborhood, let's do something about it.
Well, I would say I've noticed the design exception process is problematic. I know Brian mentioned that as well. I don't know. I'm just wondering if maybe there is too much. I mean, look, I understand we want staff to operate independently and have some discretion, but I am getting a little concerned, because I know that we had a situation in the neighborhood, and staff basically had a lot of data that sort of indicated that it probably shouldn't be approved, and they went ahead and approved it. And we had identified that it was going to create sort of future problems, and that future exceptions were going to be required. They went ahead and approved it, and then what happened? The developer then started to apply for all those other exemptions.
Right. Well, that's
and then when staff analyzed it, they said, well, the developer owns the property next door too, so they're the only ones that are affected.
Yeah. Well, what happened with that conversation, one of the councilmen remembered when they, it's actually Councilman Dingfelder remembered when he was on the city council in the past, is when they started the design exception. The idea was that they could take some of the work away from city council and help them make some of those decisions. But what it turned out was, and you can see it on CARE, is you have 5 pages of design exceptions. There are no dates of when they're being heard, and it's a secret. And then all of a sudden, it's either passed or not passed. So Councilman Goods and Councilman Dingfelder have asked for the city to come up with some explanation of that and a better way for us to do that, because the neighborhoods should know if there's a design exception going in. As it is now, they don't have to send a good neighbor letter out, and they do not have to post any kind of a notification. So hopefully that will change so that we can keep a better eye on this, because we've talked about HB 401, where it's all the developers who are lobbying that, and little by little, that's what's happening. So I think we have to get together and fight for what we can locally. I was surprised that with the letter of denial that went to this contract as a developer, there was also a letter of the mayor basically reinforcing the decision that they had made and telling why. And it was sort of a letter that kind of gave a little power for the city behind HB 401, which I thought was interesting. And that was the other reason. Besides the letter of denial, the letter from the mayor, it's a form letter, but nevertheless it's attached to it, explaining that that's part of the way it goes. And still, somebody 3 days later handed them a permit. So they're looking into it, and hopefully it'll come with the changes with the good neighbor letter. They'll also start making that available to the public. That's it.
Can't hear you, Stephanie.
I said I'm done.
Sorry, anyone else? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get up on my soapbox for just a minute. I really feel like if you haven't seen the articles about Councilman Dingfelder in the last couple days, I feel like that's retaliation against him for being so pro neighborhood. And I want to go speak before City Council, also known as the CRA board, on Thursday morning about it, because I really feel like this is 100% because he is so pro neighborhood, and they're trying to get him to recuse himself from any hearings that have anything to do with them. So, you know, and if they ask for that, and
they did ask for it. You said they did ask for it.
That may be the case, but what I'm saying is that I don't know, but it sure does stink. And I think that we're going to have to be very, very vocal. And this is one of the reasons why THAN is, I mean, we've talked about being able to support things and make statements, but we wanted to make sure that that we speak up about this particular issue. And I'm going to do it personally just because I find it so offensive that they, the first thing they did was ask for the 81 Bay, the communications about that, which implies that it's Carol Ann and I and the other folks that everybody knows are affiliated with Stopover Building SOG and the new folks in our neighborhood at Bayside West. And you know, there's something that stinks really, really badly about this. But once they recuse Councilman Dingfelder, who's to say Goods isn't next or Citro isn't next? I mean, when does it stop?
Well, I've got such a problem with this. I feel like my head is going to explode. You know, you've got Dingfelder who asks questions, holds people's feet to the fire. He's very pro neighborhood, but he's not unreasonable. I mean, he's voted for things that, you know, I was hoping he'd vote no for, you know, and so what has happened is now a particular builder is trying to eliminate the hurdle, the obstacle that's in their way of making the highest profit possible. So they've made charges against him, and they're going to ask that he has to recuse himself from anything they really bring before City Council. So now, is this the new way builders get what they want? I mean, who's next? Is all the builders who built on Rattlesnake Point, or the ones who want to build in Beach Park or Domain Homes or whomever? They can all come forward and say, oh, blah, 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 blah. He needs to recuse, you know, so-and-so needs to recuse themselves every time I bring something before City Council. I mean, that's just so much BS. And the thing that, one of the things that bothers me about it is how disingenuous and false the accusations are. So you saw Citro before us today, and we all asked him questions about legislative issues. We asked him about sidewalks. We asked him about the schools. We asked him all these things that are not quasi-judicial. Now, there's no record of that as far as like that someone can make a public records request of Citro and find out what he said to us today. If Sidewalk Stompers wants to meet with Citro and have coffee with him and discuss sidewalks, there's no public information request you can make and ask what was talked about, because it's not quasi-judicial. The only restriction is you can't have two councilmen there at the same time. It can only be one councilman at the time. So if we'd had two councilmen here to the meeting, that would violate the law. If you had coffee with them, that violates the law. But as long as there's only one of them, and as long as it's not quasi-judicial, you can have private conversations, and there's nothing wrong with it. But the charge is that he had a conversation on his wife's email address about a non-quasi-judicial matter. Well, what difference does it make? I mean, if I run into him at Lowe's and he can talk to me about it, you know, or if I can make a formal request. Virginia Park made a formal request to meet with every single council person on the last council and on this council. There's no official record of what we discussed. You can't ask for it through the Sunshine Law, and it doesn't violate the law because it was one council person and there was no quasi-judicial discussed. And so they're saying that he violated the Sunshine Laws by conducting official business not on an official email address. Well, this Zoom call wasn't an official anything. You know, Starbucks, we met him at Kawa. We wanted to talk to about something. We met him at Kawa. Several of us did. So we've met him at the library, Councilman. So it makes me furious. I'm absolutely just furious about this. And if we can speak tomorrow, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say something.
Anyone
So,
else?
Stephanie.
This is Sandy again. I think it's important that we let all the city councilmen know that we support them. And like I said to Councilman Citro about their accessibility. Their job is to communicate with us and be liaisons between the city and the developers. We need to make sure that they're not intimidated by something like this. The gentleman, and I use the term loosely, that is making these charges, I haven't heard one person say a positive thing about him. He acts as a lobbyist, but he is not listed as a he's not a registered lobbyist, and he's not an attorney. So his credibility leaves something to be desired. And I think problem is that he is seeing that the neighborhoods are so involved now, and it's getting harder and harder for them to pass something, because we're not just sitting back and letting it happen. We're involved. We're calling them on things. And like I said, I think it's his way of saying enough is enough. We want to go back to the old days where I just tell you whatever you want. I lie to you and tell you that I've talked to the communities. I lied to you and tell you that something's going to be something else. And we're calling them on them. When they say, I've talked, like they were talking earlier, when they say I've already talked to the community, and people get up and say, you didn't talk to us.
Oh, everybody
That's
knew
calling
exactly
them.
who that conversation was about. I mean, let's face it, that was that wasn't a very subtle. No,
everybody knows
who that's about.
What's that, Tim? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said everybody knew exactly who that conversation was about.
Well, I know. I don't want to get sued for slander. But anyway, and I like I said, I think we do need to be proactive and let the city know that we think that the city councilman